Okay, so first of all, you will receive a notification, an email notification. Here's an example of one that I made earlier today of what you would receive. You'll actually see the requesting department, the buyer name, contact information for that particular procurement, when the bid opening will occur, and gives you a link to the BidBuy system. Okay, so it's not going to give you a direct link. It will just give you a link that goes into the system, and then we'll walk through that process. Okay, so now I'm showing what it will look like on your home screen. Okay, you have your home screen. You have a couple different options here. These tabs have hyperlinks. You can go to bids. Now I'm going to see all the bids that are available. So as a part of that email notification you receive, there will be a bid number specifically. If you were on that bid holders list, it will be in the bids unacknowledged. So this is the first time. If I click on the bid, you have these hyperlinks here. If I click on it, automatically there brings up a pop-up. I need to acknowledge this bid. And at that point, if I acknowledge, I'm going to receive all communications from here on forward after this concerning any bid amendment. So I click yes. And now I will create quote at the bottom of this quote. So there's some general information here that talks about the procurement. Any of the attachments are attached here. Then you will create quote. Okay, so now you can see that I'm inside my new quote on this first page. And in general, what we're going to do is we're going to touch on a couple of these tabs moving from left to right. And then when we get to the summary tab, we will submit our quote. Once we submit our quote, we're going to receive an email notification, and we'll always be able to go back and see that we had submitted this quote. So you will have confirmation of that. Okay, so actually you don't even need to put anything on the general tab other than just save and continue. Now we get our first red quote validation error that the terms and conditions have not been acknowledged. We will get to that as soon as we get to our terms and conditions tab, which will be next, because we are not going to be utilizing our items. You're not going to be putting specific line item pricing in here. This whole scenario is set up so that you will just go in and attach documents the way you normally would if you were submitting via paper. So rather than sending in paper documents, because due to the current COVID-19 crisis, the state of Illinois is not accepting paper bids. And this is all put in place for your safety as well as the safety for toll highway personnel. So you're not even going to need to go in and put in line pricing for the line items. You will just end up putting them in the attachments. You're going to attach all your documents. Okay, so we don't need to do anything in items. Questions, subcontractors, you're not going to put in your subcontracting information here. This whole process is just so that you can submit your responses electronically, and you're just going to be doing attachments. So it's very similar to the way you would attach documents to an email, for instance. Other than a couple little things, and one of those is this terms and conditions. So the terms and conditions, I do need to go in and accept the terms and conditions, selecting one of these options. So I select yes and save and continue. At this point, you see that that red validation error is gone. I still have this quote validation warning, this yellow warning that just reminds you, hey, your quote has not been submitted yet. Okay, so this hard stop concerning the terms and conditions is just something that's built into the system in terms of accepting those terms and conditions. Okay, then we get to our attachments tab, and this is going to be where most of the activity takes place. Okay, so all we've done is selected, all we did was select save and continue on the general tab. We accepted the terms and conditions. Now we get to our attachments. And how we attach attachments is we go in and we click add file. Then we choose file. And then I can go in and just grab any of our documents here. Okay, so I'm going to go in and I'm just going to grab a document. This would be my response. Now, there's a couple different options here as well. I can attach documents one by one, but just from a workflow standpoint, what I would suggest is the system allows you to do a zip file. So you can have, I understand toll highways as your responses can get quite lengthy, right? Multiple attachments, a lot of paperwork. What you can do is you can have that as one zip file. You create one zip file and attach that into BidBuy. So you could potentially have just one attachment as a part of your response. Okay, so how I would do that, let's say, let's go ahead and let me do this real quick. Let me go grab some of these. Compress. Now I have that zip file in my documents. So if I go back and want to add that zip file, I do the same thing. I click Add File, choose File, and then I can go into my zip file and add that. Okay. Easy enough. It's one of those things where the system is brand new to you, but it is simply as easy as that. Now, one thing I will say that's different in our training environment, what we're in here, is that all your documents from here on in the production environment will automatically be marked confidential. So you're going to see that on your end. As soon as you attach any documents, they will already be marked confidential. So you won't need to go in and mark those confidential. So once we're there with we're good with our attachments, we can move to our summary tab and submit our quote. So I go down, I scroll, I can just take one last look. These are the attachments on this specific quote. And I can go in, I can submit my quote. At this point, if you wanted to, you could print your own quote. But I'm going to choose to submit my quote. A pop-up comes up, are you sure you want to submit this quote? Yes. Now, within my quote, you can see over here on the right-hand side in the status, it is submitted. Also, what happened is I just received an email that it was a confirmation email from the system saying, yes, you have submitted. Okay, so if I go back to the bid or if I go back to my home screen, let's talk about the home screen very quickly. So we got to our bid by clicking this bids. Now, if I go to quotes, I can see all of my different quotes that I have either been working on, right, which are in the working category here. So these are the different quotes. You'll have your quote number. You have hyperlinks to each bid and when that bid opening date is and when was the last date that I modified it. Okay, so the quote that I submitted would be in this submitted column. And here you go. You can see that this quote and the last day or last time I modified it was at 3:10 today. Okay, you also have revision and withdrawn. So let's go back to my quote. I realized that, you know what, I forgot to add something. I need to go back in and add an attachment. That's easy enough. I can go back to the summary tab of that quote and I can withdraw the quote. Okay, so if I hit withdraw, are you sure you want to withdraw? Now you're going to see that the status of this quote is now withdrawn. And if I go back to my home screen and into quotes, you're going to see that that quote is now in the withdrawn category. It was moved from my submitted category to my withdrawn category. Okay, so let's say that I want to go back into that quote and I had attached, gone in and I'd forgotten to attach something, right? I go back in, I do the same thing, I add file, or if I need to delete a file, right, I can go over to the right, I select delete, and then when I hit save and continue, it deletes that quote. Okay, so for instance, you had that large zip file, but you needed to go out and change some documentation in there. I withdrew my quote, I went back and deleted that zip file. I did what I needed to do to have that zip file corrected, and I go back and I can go add it again. So I add file, I choose file, and then I go back to, maybe I probably made a new zip file, but you get the idea there. So you can submit and withdraw before that bid opening time. Okay, and of course this would be marked confidential as well. Save and continue. I can go to the summary tab and then submit this quote. submitting quote. And once again, are you sure you want to submit this quote? Yes, I do. So now when I go back to my home screen, once again, I just got another email again saying, yes, you resubmitted. So now when I go into my quotes, you can see where that withdrawn quote was now moved back to the submitted quote. Okay, so let's talk really quickly about this working. So at this point, these are just quotes that I've started, but I haven't submitted, and hence they weren't withdrawn either. So as long as you hit save and continue on each of those tabs, that general tab or the terms and conditions tab or within the attachments, it will live in that exact state. So it'll be an in progress quote, and you can leave and come back and work on it and come back without changing anything. So that's one of our frequently asked questions is, hey, once I start a quote, do I have to finish it all and submit it? Nope, it'll just be living in this working category here. Okay? Okay, so let me go back. That's that piece of a quote. Now I'm working within the train environment here. You can see up here in the left, it's train, so that we use this for our training. So we aren't really purchasing anything. We aren't awarding anything. It's just to practice. So if I go back to our PowerPoint here really quickly, we have a link, and I'm going to send these couple slides out to everybody. We do have a link here to that train environment. I created a test bid. So a test bid's been created, this bid 11360. If you would like to go in and just practice submitting a quote, you can. This bid will not be, I think I set the opening date for like the end of December or something like that. So you could go in and mess around and practice submitting a quote if you would like. We aren't going to do an opening with that test bid. It won't be awarded. We're not going to do any of that. We're setting this up literally just so you have a practice dry run at submitting a quote, and you can see that, walk through that process. So many of you, you may not even know this, but you would have access to the train environment previously from a test that was done last fall. But if you would like to have access and you don't have it, you would please contact stateuser.bidbuy@illinois.gov, and they can set you up with a login and password. So that way, like I said, then you can go to that bid 11360 and practice going through submitting a quote. All right, thanks everyone. At this point, I'm going to stop the recording, but let's go ahead and go through some questions.